Welcome back to the Michael Cohen Show on our continued journey to 250,000 subscribers. I mean, we're about 4,000 shy. So hit subscribe, watch, and share. It's important to share because there's a lot that's going on. So let me start with this one. Around 1 o'clock this morning, Volume 1 of the Special Counsel Jack Smith's report on Trump's involvement in the January 6th insurrection, it was released. And despite Trump's many attempts to block the release of the report, even Judge Eileen Cannon, who we all know is a Trumper, is a MAGA, she even ruled that it could be released, and so it was last night. Now, one thing you're going to get continuously on this show, it's not partisan. And people may say, bullshit, Michael, you're partisan. No, because you have heard me say that this report should not have been released. All right? And now that it was, I feel extremely confident that my position was correct. And let me tell you why. All right? I want both sides of the aisle. I want whether you're Republican or Democrat to follow this point. And I hopefully will be able to change some people's mind. It's no different than, for example, if you total your car. All right? You total your car. What's the point to change the tires? What's the point to repaint the car? It's totaled. No point. That's my point. Trump, by the way, was not happy about this being released. And I want to show you first what he posted on Truth Social. Put up the first part. He turns around and he goes right back to the same rhetoric. Deranged Jack Smith was unable to successfully prosecute the political opponent of his boss, crooked Joe Biden. So he ends up writing yet another report based on information that the Unselect Committee of Political Hacks and Thugs illegally destroyed and deleted because it showed how totally innocent I was and how completely guilty Nancy Pelosi and others were. Jack is a lame-brained prosecutor who was unable to get his case tried before the election, which I won in a landslide. The voters have spoken. The second one says, to show you how desperate deranged Jack Smith is, he released his fake findings at 1 a.m. in the morning. Did he say that the Unselect Committee illegally destroyed and deleted all of the evidence? Okay, let me start by saying this. First and foremost, Jack Smith is not deranged. This has nothing to do with Nancy Pelosi. There is no Unselect Committee and so on. Again, this is just Donald Trump ranting because he didn't get what he wants. He didn't get it the way that he wants it. And the point that I was trying to make when I said that I didn't believe the report should be released, it goes to the essence of what's the purpose. So people will say to you, well, it's now part of history. It's a historical document. I say to that, big shit. Who cares? Maybe had Merrick Garland done what was needed to be done, acted more expeditious instead of being cautious as he is, maybe this report would have been released 1 year ago. Maybe today would be January 14th of 2024, not 2025. Maybe then, as Jack Smith and I will show you in the first 4 pages of his writing to Merrick Garland, why this case might have been relevant and my position would be completely different. And I want to then go through the first 4 pages with you because it explains to you my position on why I did not believe that this report should have been released. Let's go to the first page. He turns around and he writes, Dear Attorney General, and he's talking, of course, to Merrick Garland. In the fall of 2022, former President Donald J. Trump was a subject of 2 separate criminal investigations by the DOJ. The first was an investigation into whether any person violated the law in connection with efforts to interfere with the lawful transfer of power following the 2020 presidential election. The second investigation focused on the possession of highly classified documents of Mr. Trump's Mar-a-Lago social club following his presidency. It goes on to say that on November 15th of 2022, Mr. Trump declared his candidacy to unseat President Joseph R. Biden Jr., who had previously stated his intention to stand for re-election. Mr. Trump's announcement created a highly unusual situation in which the department, an agency within the executive branch headed by President Biden, was conducting criminal investigations regarding his newly declared challenger. Based on a long-standing recognition that in certain extraordinary cases, it is the public interest to appoint a special prosecutor to independently manage an investigation and prosecution. You, as the Attorney General, promptly did so here to underscore the department's commitment to both independence and accountability in particularly sensitive matters. Attorney General Merrick B. Garland remarks on the appointment of a special counsel, Washington, D.C. Again, that's dated November 18th of 2022. On that day I was appointed, I pledged that I would exercise independent judgment, follow the best tradition of the DOJ, and conduct my work expeditiously and thoroughly to reach whatever outcome the facts and law dictated. All right, take that down, because here's something interesting. That's 2022. This report didn't come out now until 2025. When you talk expeditious and you have somebody who is being appointed as Jack Smith was, because Donald Trump had declared his presidency and did so for obvious reasons, you don't need to get the testimony of 1,000 people. You don't need 1 million documents. You need merely a handful and maybe 100 documents within which to prove your point. Go to the second page, because what Jack Smith does in this document, it's personal, which it's not supposed to be. Very few times have you ever seen 4 pages written to explain why you are releasing the document, why the document was done in the first place. Normally it's pursuant to agreement, ... and they move on. Jack Smith makes this personal, and that too, my friends, is a mistake, and one of the reasons why I said this report should not be released. Attorney General Edward H. Levi, who assumed the department helm in the wake of Watergate, now we're going back to the 70s. He turns around and goes, "One paramount concern must always guide our way. This is the keeping of the faith in the essential decency and even-handedness in the law, a faith which is the strength of the law and which must continually renewed or else it is lost." He goes on to say, addressed to the Los Angeles County Bar Association, which again, 1976. This is Jack Smith now. I have been a career prosecutor in local, national, and international settings over the last 3 decades, working shoulder to shoulder with hundreds of prosecutors in that time. The prosecutors and staff of the Special Counsel's Office are, in my estimation, without peer in terms of accomplishment, capability, judgment, and work ethic. More importantly, in my book, they are people of great decency and the highest personal integrity. The intense public scrutiny of our office, threats to their safety, and relentless unfounded attacks on their character and integrity did not deter them from fulfilling their oaths and professional obligations. These are intensely good people who did hard things well. I will not forget the sacrifices they made and the personal resilience they and their families have shown over the last 2 years. Our country owes them a debt of gratitude for their unwavering service and dedication to the rule of law. Without pause, they have upheld the department's commitment to the impartial and independent pursuit of justice. For that, I am grateful, as I know you are as well. Let me be very clear about something. I am not grateful. I believe that this report needed to have come out earlier, as I said, a year earlier. And while, yes, they did sacrifice their time and they produced this 172-page volume 1 of their report, what good is it? So read it, knock yourself out as I'm going to. Read the entire thing. I'm about 1/3 of the way through. But what good is it going to do? January 20th of 2025. Donald Trump will be standing in the Capitol with his hand on the Bible and being sworn in as the 47th President of the United States. This document, this volume, produces nothing. Go to the next page, where he turns around and he says, staffed by some of the most experienced prosecutors in the department. My office operated under the same department policies and procedures that guide all federal prosecutors. The regulations under which I was appointed required that we do so, and our work benefited from those processes. The department has long recognized that proceeding with uniformity of policy is necessary to the prestige of federal law. All right, because our work rested upon the fundamental value of our democracy, that we exist as a government of laws and not of men. He goes back to John Adams, for God's sakes, 1775. Again, he's writing this for the history books, not for the purpose that it was designed or its intent. In making decisions as special counsel, I considered as a first principle whether our actions would contribute to upholding the rule of law and acted accordingly. Now he's becoming very self-righteous in this, and he's protecting his own reputation. Our committed adherence to the rule of law is why we not only followed department policies and procedures, but strictly observed legal requirements and dutifully respected the judicial decisions and precedents our prosecutors prompted. That is also why in my decision-making, I heeded the imperative that, in quotes, no man in this country is so high that he is above the law. Simply, go to the next page. It turns around and says the Department of Justice's guiding mandate, which my office strove to uphold, is that power, politics, influence, status, wealth, fear, and favor should not impede justice under the law. When I assumed responsibility for the matters you assigned to me, I came to the work with no preconceived notion of what the just outcome of the investigation would be. I was not yet familiar with all of the relevant facts and had not yet researched the relevant law. Depending upon what the investigations revealed, I was equally comfortable closing the investigations or moving forward with prosecutions in one or both of the matters, having done both in high-profile matters throughout my career. Again, self-laudatory. He goes on to say, indeed, Mr. Trump's cases represented ones in which the offense was the most flagrant, the public harm the greatest, and the proof the most certain. Goes back to Jackson. He's going back to Jackson and the federal prosecutors. All right, let me go on where he turns around and he states, it is equally important to me to make clear that nobody within the Department of Justice ever sought to interfere with or improperly influence my prosecutorial decision-making. The regulations under which I was appointed provided you with the authority to countermand my decisions, but you did not do so. Now, again, he's protecting who? He's protecting Merrick Garland and the DOJ. Nor did you, the Deputy Attorney General, or members of your staff ever attempt to improperly influence my decision as to whether to bring, next page, charges against Mr. Trump. And to all who know me well, the claim from Mr. Trump that my decisions as a prosecutor were influenced or directed by the Biden administration or other political actors is, in a word, laughable. This is not the type of document that you see. All right, goes on to say, accompanying this letter, I am providing you a confidential report explaining the prosecution or declination decisions reached by the special counsel. Report consists of 2 volumes. Volume 1, he goes on, talks about but both volumes minimize the identification of witnesses and co-conspirators consistent with accepted department practice, and we have provided a redacted version of Volume 2 that identifies certain information that remains under seal or is restricted from public disclosure by Federal Rule of Criminal Procedure. Because Volume 2 discusses the conduct of Mr. Trump's alleged co-conspirators in the classified documents case, Walter Nada and Carlos de Oliveira, consistent with department policy, Volume 2 should not be publicly released while their cases remain pending. And then finally, this is what he goes on to say. Though not required, prior to finalizing the report, my office provided an opportunity for counsel for Mr. Trump to review both volumes and for counsel for his former co-defendants in the classified documents case, Mr. Nod and Mr. De Oliveira, to review volume 2. After their review, counsel for Mr. Trump wrote a letter to you, and we have provided a written response to you, both of which you will find as an addendum to the report. He goes on to turn around and to say in this document that there is no doubt in his mind that had he had the opportunity within which you could take that down, had he had the opportunity within which to present this case, that Donald Trump would have been found guilty of the charges, specifically the ones that I'm referring to are the ones that are enumerated and identified in volume 1. Once again, my point is, what is the consequence? Where is the accountability? Where is all of the taxpayer money that went into this investigation over 2+ years? Over 2 years. In fact, it could even be closer to 3 years. There will be no accountability, as Donald Trump again will be sworn in on the 20th of this month. And so with that, I turn around and I say, great. We now have something to talk about. You'll be now watching this episode and finally understanding that they waited too long. Goes to the adage, too little, too late. And with that, as always, thanks for listening. Hey everyone, first of all, thanks for watching. I mean, we're going to be posting daily episodes with reactions and talking about politics. We'll be talking about everything, in fact. So please like and subscribe. Join us on this journey.